Hey everyone, Ice McFall here, and welcome back to another Raspberry Flavored update video. Raspberry Flavored 3.1 just came out a few days ago, so I'm making a video to cover it. I'm not going to be talking about everything in this update because there is a lot, but I will be showing some things that I thought were interesting and I just felt like covering. So the first thing is that blast furnaces, kilns, and smokers are now removed, and they are replaced by the oven and forge. I believe both of these might have already existed. I know the forge definitely existed because I use it a lot. But the oven, in order to use this, you're going to need a heat source from below. So we're going to use a stove. So there we go. If you want to cook, let's say pork chops, you'll need to put them 3 in a row. Something like this. And as you can see, this is cooking now. And we're going to get 3 in return. So you basically cook 3 pork chops at once. Here's the recipe for the oven: 5 bricks, 2 cobblestone, and iron ingot. And now let's talk about the forge. I use the forge most often for making tablets, enchanted tablets, but this is its new UI. Now it actually requires coal to power it, and you're able to supply in more than just one item into each slot. Unlike before, you can only put one item in at a time. So I can just leave this running and it'll just make me a bunch of tablets. Along with this tweak to the forge, its recipe has been changed to 5 deep slate, a furnace, and 3 iron ingots. And a lot of progression based items now require the forge. So for example, some weapons, armor, and a couple of other things now require the forge to craft. A cool thing is that we actually have totems of undying back into the game. These were removed before but are brought back and are now ancient city loot. And ancient city loot has just been buffed in general, so there's a lot more reason to go explore them. The netherite broadaxe has been quite buffed. It does 14 damage now. However, it is a little bit slower. It swings just a little bit slower. So for comparison, the netherrack does 12 damage and the netherite broadaxe does 14. There have been a few tweaks to recipes of create items, like the storage interface requires brass casing now, with the portable storage interface still requiring that storage interface. So of course it is a bit more expensive as well. The deployer changed from using rose gold back to brass like it is in normal create, and the display link has been changed from using copper ingots to being made of rose gold ingots. There is now an alternative to vanilla's modern wind charges, and those are the rose gold bombs. These things do not deal any damage, but they do a lot of knockback. So this pillar is 9 blocks high. If we stand here and right click without doing anything else, without jumping, we can make it all the way to the top. This pillar is 13 blocks, and if we jump at just the right time, we can actually make it all the way up here. In fact, it seems we might be able to make it 14. Yeah, that's 14. I actually just made it 16 blocks up. These things can send you quite high. There's been a tweak to the silver mirror. It now has a completely different feature. Now it will start to glow as you approach silver ore. So there's some silver behind this wall. And as you can see, my mirror has turned more blue. And when you get really close, it starts to play this animation where it starts shining. Now when you attack an undead mob, it'll actually have a particle trail that leads to where the silver is. Speaking of silver ore, every single ore in the game now is apparently immune to TNT explosions. Or really explosions in general. If you're like me, always getting jump scared by peepers underground, literally just sending you right to half a heart before you even know they exist, peepers now actually move quite a bit slower. You see it's moving quite slow. That's how slow they move, which yeah, it's quite slow. This is a change to item pipes. There is no longer a separate encased item pipe item. Instead, you have to place down an item pipe and encase it with brass casing, and then it'll become an encased item pipe. I'm not too sure what is with this. This feels like it could be a bug with it kind of... It seems if you place a casing on the end, sometimes it'll do this. I guess we can see if it'll still work. Will it still send the pipe to the other side? It will. So I guess that's just a visual bug. You also may have noticed that the texture of these has been changed and they fit the recipe being made of brass. And I think this looks really cool. Yeah, the person who designed this did a really good job. The haste effect has been tweaked a little bit so that for each amplifier, the mining speed has actually been boosted a little bit. And to insta-mine stone with an electrum pickaxe, you're going to need haste 8. There are new blocks called deposit blocks, and there is one for each type of geode, so that when you break one of these deposits, it'll actually drop some of those geodes. And this does seem to be affected by fortune on the gold pickaxe. I'm not going to place all these down in the world, but there is a bunch of different Obsidian variants now. Obsidian has its own block set now with Stuff like the polished obsidian stairs, obsidian brick stairs, and has a lot of different crying obsidian blocks, which I think look pretty cool. There is a new fish in the game called the crystal fish that is a rare catch. However, it can be found alongside goldfish and buried treasure loot. The crystal fish gives you water breathing for 6 minutes and grace for 3 minutes. Grace being like dolphin's grace. And you are able to cut this on a cutting board to cut it into 6 rough diamond shards. I haven't experimented with fishing much in this mod pack, but caterpillars are a new bait. And to my knowledge, they seem to be the best bait to use right now. A tweak to spawners is that now they're always going to drop a soul bead when you break them. So that's very convenient. Also, Overgrown mineshafts look a little bit different now. I'm going to just show you some screenshots that Raspberry sent in the Discord server, and there's a link in the description if you want to join the official Raspberry Flavoured Discord server. And now let's move on to my least favorite addition to this update and my favorite addition to this update. So we're going to start off with my least favorite. Now, I've got nothing against this item on its own, but there's a new item called Ember Coke. And this thing is crafted with coal, glowstone dust, and cinder dust. And it looks like you need to use the forge for this or a mixer from Create. This is used to make 24 torches at once. It's also required to make the empty blaze burner, and it seems it can make 8 torch arrows. For fuel, it smelts 32 items, and as a block, it smelts 320 items. So just one block can smelt 5 stacks of items, which, you know, absolutely insane. You're probably like, why do you hate this item so much? But like I said, it's not the item itself, it's the fact that the blaze tart recipe has changed to include it in its recipe. Instead of using a 3rd cinder dust to make the blaze tart, it now requires an ember coke. The ember coke is the real problem because in my survival world, I actually have a max stress steam engine, which is super unnecessary, but it's something I'm kind of happy with. And this update ended up breaking that, unfortunately, and I'm having to spend a lot of time fixing it. So it is much harder to automate blaze tarts or craft them in general. However, coal can actually be automated now. Yeah, before when you'd crush tuff, it actually gave you a bunch of different ores, but now it's just changed to piles of ash and coal and flint. They also made cinder dust harder to craft. You're guaranteed to get 1 cinder dust and you'll no longer ever get netherrack back for it. However, to still make this process not too difficult, terracotta can now be haunted into netherrack. Well, with the complaining out of the way, let's talk about my favorite addition in this update, and that is these item drawers. These were added with the intent of possibly replacing storage interfaces and terminals, so if those end up getting removed in the future, you'll understand why. So yeah, these things are an alternative storage solution, so I put in a few different minerals into these storage interfaces by right-clicking them. If you left-click these, you can actually take an item out, and if I right-click it with another stack of items, I can actually put more in. And as you can see, it is at 65 right now. That is because these storage drawers actually can hold 80 stacks of one item. So yeah, if you left-click, you'll take an item out. If you right-click, you'll put the items in your hand into it. If you shift left-click, you'll take a stack out. This block I put in the middle is the item drawer distributor, and it allows you to right click it and it'll automatically put the item into the correct drawer. If you put in an item that doesn't have a slot in any of the drawers around it, it just won't go anywhere. It has to be an item that is actually in one of the drawers connected to the distributor. I don't know if there's a max amount of drawers that can have items. If I add an amethyst into here, and when I click here, it does get connected. I don't think there is a max number of connected drawers to this, but I could be wrong. You can actually input items automatically into the item drawer distributor. So if I put in some gold and diamonds, they'll go through this pipe. You'll see them ending up exactly where they're supposed to be going. So yeah, I really think this is super cool, and I look forward to using it in my survival series. Anyway, other than these updates I've covered, there's been many recipes that have been changed, many texture changes, and of course many bug fixes. So a lot has changed in this update, and I hope this video was able to help you. But that is all, and I'll see you later. Goodbye!